Am I the only one that thinks it was stupid for the Chargers to ever move to Los Angeles? I get you get a chance to play in the second biggest media market in the country, get to play in a brand new stadium that is state of the art and wonderful and da 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 da. But you're going from a place in San Diego where, that fan base really cared about you and that you really had your identity tied with that city for, almost 60 years to a place where you're like eighth or ninth in the city in terms of the sports totem pole, and you won't even be the primary game in town when it comes to the NFL because the Rams have decades of previous history in Los Angeles here. Like, I don't get it. And that's why you would see so many times when the Chargers are playing home games, it feels like a road game because fans of other teams are buying their tickets and nobody really cares to see the Chargers. They don't really have a bunch of Chargers fans in Los Angeles. Well, one way you change that is you make a big statement, you win a lot of games, or you go out and make big splashy moves, right? And the Chargers certainly did that this past offseason. They made a big statement going ahead and hiring Jim Harbaugh away from the Michigan Wolverines. And as you look back on it, whether it was going to be the Raiders or the Chargers, like this type of move made sense for Harbaugh and for the team. For Harbaugh, he's a guy that seems to love coaching on the West Coast. And if it wasn't going to be a place like his alma mater, Michigan, he'd prefer to stay on the West Coast. And I get that, right? And here's an opportunity. He comes in and he's got an established top flight or close to top flight quarterback in Justin Herbert. Like, yeah, you get it. And with the hiring of Harbaugh, it was reasonable for people to project the Chargers would improve in 2024. Playoffs certainly felt like a potential possibility. Why wouldn't they? You're not in a spot where you're trying to rebuild. You're bringing in Harbaugh to turn it around quickly and to win quickly. The playoffs have better be the expectations, and if they are, there's really something gone wrong here. But here's my thing. I don't think Harbaugh is a bad coach. I think he's an overrated coach, especially by Bears fans. Because big surprise, when Harbaugh comes in traditionally, when is he the most successful? When he's doing his own version of Bears football! Defense plays great, running game, and then your quarterback has less than stellar performance. Sound familiar, folks? Because that's what you got out of the Chargers here in 2024. It was a glorified, souped-up West Coast version of Bears football. How the hell else could you classify it, right? Like if you look at Justin Herbert, he was efficient. He protected the ball really well. That's all true, right? But he did feel like a lesser version of himself in 2024. And to me, if you're bringing in Jim Harbaugh, you're spending the type of money making the investment that you did to bring in a Harbaugh, the name of the game is to help Herbert play at an MVP level, not have him take a step back. And that's what I felt happened in 2024, even before you get to the playoff performance. J.K. Dobbins was effective on the ground, certainly, but he also missed a number of games. Ladd McConkey, he produced like a high first-round pick. You talk about this receiving class from 2024, it was great. Just in terms of Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, and you throw in a Ladd McConkey, who was a second-round pick, right? I mean, what happens if guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Rome Odunze actually produce at the level that their draft position indicates that they should? They're going to be viewed as a pretty special wide receiver class, but what a great get for the Chargers drafting Joe Alton round one and then getting Ladd McConkey where they did. And to the point around the whole Bears football thing, I had to wake you up, folks. Their offense wasn't great. They were 20th in total yards, 11th in points scored. Meanwhile, you look at their defense, they were 7th in yards allowed, 1st in fewest points allowed. And all of this, mind you, is while Khalil Mack had severe regression from his 2023 performance, and Joey Bosa also had a kind of below average career performance. So two of your highest paid, biggest name stars produced less, and your defense overall played better. Let's cut the bullshit. Once again, Jim Harbaugh is riding the coattails of his defense to a double-digit win season and a playoff appearance, and that's exactly what the fuck happened. They win 11-6, and yet once they got into the playoffs, wouldn't you know, Herbert plays like dog shit. Harbaugh, it seems like, doesn't have a clue what to do on the offensive side of the ball. and that defense of the Chargers has a bad game, right? So like just it exacerbates itself, and they got steamrolled by the Texans 32-12, and I doubt it even felt like it was that close when we were watching it back a month and a half ago. So like I guess it's a positive season for the Chargers, but to me I see some concerns here in terms of okay, you've got the Chiefs are still the Chiefs until proven otherwise. But you got the Broncos nipping on your heels. And I'm looking at this Chargers team and I'm saying, okay, their defense played really well this past season. Are they going to do it again? And this offense, like they introduced more balance, but I thought they did it at the expense of Justin Herbert's development. And then if you're talking about Herbert, you have to be really concerned. A guy that, sometimes you look at and say you feel like he should be in the elite quarterback conversation, but then he blazed fucking eggs smelling like sulfuric ass hairs in that fucking game against the Texans. Like, you can't put him in that classification. It's insane. As much as I've been a supporter of an advocate for Herbert, like, I'm certainly not putting him in the class of a Mahomes, a Burrow, a Lamar Jackson, a Josh Allen. That's fucking insane. Like, those are your clear top 4 guys, right? And like, just absolutely not. So now for the Chargers, you can at least say this. Harbaugh came in and helped right the ship a little bit. Like, got them pointed in the right direction. Now it's time to get to work in this offseason. They've got about $65 million in cap space, a number of free agents, Khalil Mack, Morgan Fox, Asante Samuel Jr., Christian Fulton, J.K. Dobbins. You'd presume that Samuel and Fulton would be priorities because you don't want to lose them out of the secondary. Maybe Morgan Fox as well. I think Khalil Mack could be gone. Some other team's going to want him. I just don't know how much urgency the Chargers should feel to have to pay him big money. It's also fair to wonder if they're going to rework Joey Bosa's contract or possibly release him, because I think releasing him would free up like $20 million in cap space. So you're really interested to see in the next couple of weeks what the Chargers do to approach this offseason and how aggressive they want to be. But when we look ahead to the draft and what they need to address, I think tight end's the number one need on this offense. Like, sure, you've got Ladd McConkey, right? But I think they could really benefit from that intermediate weapon, that intermediate target that they really don't have in this offense right now. They need a tight end really badly, really badly. And then you look at them, I look at the defense, right? Even though the defense played well, they need some young depth in terms of edge rushers. Like, you have Tui Pelotu as a younger guy, but Max old may not be back. Bosa is not getting any younger and wasn't very effective last year, and he may not be back, right? And even if Bosa or Mack are back, you still need to draft some depth talent there and guys that could be future starters and impact players. Then I look at the defensive line. They could use some help there. Also at corner, and especially if they let one of Fulton or Samuel go, going to need to draft somebody high there. I think the cool thing for the Chargers is heading into this draft is they've got enough needs across the board in different spots that they don't have to be so predisposed to have to draft for need early on. And I certainly don't expect that they will. I look at that offense, though, at some point in time in this draft, I want to possibly address the guard position, also running back, especially if they don't re-sign J.K. Dobbins. It was a good year for the Chargers. Like, I know it sounds like I've been negative on them, but there's some concerns to me in terms of you don't hire Jim Harbaugh to play great defense. You do it to play great offense, and the Chargers did not do that in 2024. You hire Jim Harbaugh to develop and mold Justin Herbert into the best version of himself, and we did not see that in 2024. So color me as a little sheepish on trying to make some extravagant claims about the Chargers taking that next step next year. I just frankly don't know if I see that right now. I don't.